What's up, everybody? Welcome to Oasis Podcast. We're on week 4. That is crazy to me, it's really sick too. If you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, or iTunes, we want to welcome you. If you're not subscribed yet, what you doing, bro? Hit that subscribe button. But we're jumping into week 4. I'm joined with obviously my brother and my beautiful wife, Vianey and Josh. Say hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi. So we've been really receiving a lot of compliments lately and comments on the podcast so far. We're really excited about the direction it's going, and we're obviously new to this, but it's just going to keep getting better and better from here. But we're excited to jump into week 4, and we got another special guest this week, all the way from Selma, California, from the Meeting Place Church. My buddy, I got to meet a few months back, or probably over a year ago. My buddy Christian. Can we put our hands together for Christian?
What's up?
What's up, Christian? Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
It was awesome to meet you over a year ago. It's kind of, I don't know how that worked out, but It worked out, and I'm glad it did.
Same.
Yeah, but we can jump right into it. If you want to tell Oasis Podcast, people listening, or if TMP is listening, a little bit about yourself, maybe your story, maybe they haven't heard just yet.
A little bit about myself. Well, I kind of grew up like typical. My parents were children's pastors, so I kind of grew up in church, the whole thing. Did that as far as I can remember. There's big moments in my life that kind of caused me to be who I am today. One of them was when I was about, I'd say 14, I decided that I was getting tired of church, and I was to a place I was like, I don't really want to do this anymore. Of course, I still had to go because my parents were, I couldn't really get out. But mentally and spiritually, I kind of was like, I'm just going to do my own thing, figure it out on my own. And I tried. And for about a few years, I tried to do my own thing, and it didn't really go that well. It went bad. I got in trouble for many things, trying to sell drugs, trying to put my identity in other things, trying to figure out who I was, because for me, church wasn't working.
Yeah.
Right.
That happened. To keep it real short, eventually got met up with what I now call, I call him like my other dad. He was like my mentor, one of my pastors. Through that and just other people and just really just God's grace came back, and now since then I've been just so on fire for God and just kind of doing it for me and doing it for, I'm going to church now because I want to go to church and I want to be a part of the church, and just, I don't know, just leaving and coming back has given me a whole new perspective on who God is, and that kind of shapes who I am and shapes my mission of showing people I know what it's like to be in church and not like it and have this weird idea of what it is. So now I just really try to show people hey man, this is pretty fun. There's good here.
Yeah.
Right.
So
that's good.
yeah,
that's
in
awesome,
short,
man.
that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. That's so you were raised in church.
Yeah.
Pretty much then. I feel like we have very similar stories. We haven't even talked about this even off air at all, but we've had seems like similar stories. Been raised in church, been a pastor's kid my whole life. And then got to a point in my own journey and my walk with God and in church where I was just I'm not about this anymore. I don't know what I'm doing. I was living almost a double life.
Yeah.
To where I've been a musician my whole life. I'm on the stage, and I was out partying literally hours before, be on stage and playing and singing while still intoxicated, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then after that, just kind of kept going a little bit further downhill, where I walked away, not really going to church. Maybe I was there, but I wasn't there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no.
And then similar story to you, where I made the decision for myself, where I was baptized at 12 years old, but I didn't give my life to God until I was 21 or 22 years old. So something really similar story there. But now that after you came back, you made the decision to come back to church, how long since that point have you been actually going to church?
Since I've been actually in the church.
You made the decision for yourself, right?
That's been about 5 years.
It's been 5 years?
5 years, yeah.
When did you get baptized?
I got baptized, I'm bad, I don't even remember how old I was. I think it was my between freshman and sophomore year. I think I got baptized, I think then.
Sweet.
Yeah, around then.
So you've been going to church. I know we met at the Meeting Place Church. You've been there for the last 5 years, or?
I've been at TMP now for about a year and a half.
You've been there.
So all this me coming back to Jesus stuff, this wasn't at TMP. This was somewhere else.
Okay.
So yeah.
Sweet.
There's a whole story to how I got into TMP. Which
that can be another episode in
right.
itself, so we can do that. But I know you're at TMP. We met there. Tell us a little bit about what capacity do you serve at TMP or the Meeting Place Church there in Selma?
So what I do, on Sunday mornings, I'm kind of I guess you'd be, I just kind of help everywhere. So like,
Yeah.
you know, I grew up in church, so I kind of, you know how it is. You go from, you run sound, you play instruments, you do lighting, you do everything.
We do it all.
So
Exactly what that
yeah.
is.
So on Sunday, I help with like the media, whether it be posting videos, getting it all set up. If they need help with sound, I'll help there. We do something we do after service. We call wins and gains. This is our way of like, what do we do good this service and what can we do better? Just having a goal.
Right.
I lead that. And Sunday mornings, that's basically just help where they need it and just kind of go around.
For sure.
Sunday nights, as of the beginning of this year, me and my good friend Abraham, he's the worship pastor there, worship leader.
Yeah.
We started Overflow, which it's not technically a young adults. We're open to all ages. Anyone can come, but
Yeah.
our sole focus is like the young adults age. And
Right.
that's just something that's been on my heart since I came back to Jesus. That started like brewing instantly. Just like, how can I start showing what I've learned to others?
Yeah.
So now like 6 years later, it's finally started. So
Wow.
super excited about that and seeing
Yeah,
how it
man.
goes.
And that's
Yeah.
called Overflow, right?
Overflow, yes.
Overflow. Awesome stuff there. I guess the kind of the last introductory kind of question we want to get to know you a little bit more is, what is something you wish someone would have told you when you were in college or in high school? So those early years that we talked about and young in your faith journey, what is something you wish somebody would have told you?
Something. It's funny. The thing I wish someone would have told me, they did tell me, but I never got it. Like it never clicked. Like, you know, people will tell you
Yeah.
stuff, but you kind of have to figure it out.
Right.
Was that God accepts me how I am, where I'm at. Mm-hmm. And I was always told that, but like it didn't like stick to me. My thought was, when I was new in my faith, like God loves me now because where He's gonna take me. Mm-hmm. But if I stay where I'm at in like my life and the struggle, He's not gonna love me eventually. Like He loves what He can get, which is a super bad way to see God and faith and all that. But that's just like what I thought.
Yeah.
So I wish I would have got back then, like really just understood that Jesus loves me in the middle of my mess and how I'm messed up now.
That's good.
Because that would have saved me even on my journey of trying to get to know Jesus, my identity crisis of trying
A
to,
lot of heartache.
for real,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Like even like I found like in church doing like whether it be youth ministry stuff, I was trying to find identity in that because I felt like
Right.
if I did that or like help people get saved, you know,
And God would love you more.
God would love me more. And
Yeah.
if I didn't, somehow I'm not meeting the mark and He's gonna kind of like not.
Like, what's up, man?
So yeah, so I wish I would have got that. People told me that, but I wish I would have really understood that. when I
That's
was
good.
young.
Yeah.
That's
That's
really
good. That's
good.
a good word right there. Yeah, I appreciate you for sharing that.
Yep.
But yeah, Christian's our special guest. We're really excited to have him here and to be able to kind of share and have a conversation about week 4. We've been talking about a fresh series, a new look of, it's been really focusing on division, giving, that kind of thing of how can you pretty much give church a fresh look of what maybe people's misconception is. Representing church is what we like to say. Why do people say church sucks? So that's what we've been kind of jumping into the last few weeks. But the scripture that we have to start this week off is Acts 6, 1-7. I'm reading out of the New Living Translation, but this is the foundation of our conversation today. It says, "But as the believers rapidly multiplied, there were rumblings of discontent. The Greek-speaking believers complained about the Hebrew-speaking believers, saying that their widows were being discriminated against in the daily distribution of food. So the 12 called a meeting of all the believers, the 12 being the disciples. They said, 'We apostles should spend our time teaching the word of God, not running a food program. And so, brothers, select 7 men who are well respected and are full of spirit and wisdom. We will give them this responsibility. Then we apostles can spend our time in prayer and teaching the word.' Everyone liked this idea, and they chose the following: Stephen, Philip, Prochorus, Nicanor, Timon, and Parmenas. I'm ruining these words. And Nicholas of Antioch. These 7 were presented to the apostles, who prayed for them as they laid their hands on them. So God's message continued to spread. The number of believers greatly increased in Jerusalem, and many of the Jewish priests were converted too." I think it can be easy to kind of think that, I think we've all thought this at some point in our journey, that we'll start reaching the world after we like leave our parents' home. Like after we go out on our own, we'll start to be able to reach the world. And maybe you don't think that at all. Maybe you're like, I'm not trying to reach the world. I'm just trying to do me. You know what I mean? But I think it's funny that your real life literally starts when you're in high school, beginning of high school. When you're still living at home, that's when your real life starts. And in certain issues, whether it's in culture, whether it's in the church or not, I feel like it's usually teenagers or young people that like lead the charge of anything that has to change or that needs to be changed or wants to be changed. I feel like it's the younger ones that lead like the revolution. Does that make sense? So I guess our first question to kind of start conversation today is, what is one area of division in our church or our world that you are passionate about ending?
It's a big question.
It's a huge question. Yeah. It's kind of a loaded question, I feel like, almost too. Just like,
How so?
whether it's in the church, like you're gonna offend someone with that. Because the religious are gonna be on the defensive about defending what they believe, and if it's not in church, everyone's always offended by something, whether it's with the good heart that you're trying to change something or not.
Right.
One I'm kind of passionate about changing is this idea of the stage and the people, like separating, because I feel like growing up and having the privilege on being on both sides of the person, just watching and being the person who now is there.
Yeah.
I always thought the people on stage, they have their life together to such a point that I don't, because you just see the good. So I was like, I can't do that. So I can't meet this mark, you know?
Right.
So I think just separating, like letting people know or getting them to understand, like, it's not easy for anyone. Like, it's not like we have it together. Like, we still struggle. It's hard for us all. Like, just letting people know, like, we're all on this journey.
Literally the same boat. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that. It's a good kickoff. Anybody else?
I think for me, kind of like the mentality of church people versus like unchurched people.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of times churchy people will kind of look down and like almost like pity.
Like you're less than?
Yeah, kind of like that. And I don't know. I just like everybody has problems. They're just regular people. Everybody, we're in the same boat.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody is like, oh, because you go to church, you're better than anybody else. Or
I think that
I just
comes
think
out
you're
of,
both like in different journeys and different,
I think
points in your lives.
out of more religious churches, traditional churches. I hate saying that because I hate saying that, but I feel like that comes even more like they think they're above, and they won't say it though.
Yeah, right.
They will never say that they are. They're like,
Yeah.
oh no, we're all the same, but they, in the back of their heads, they, for whatever reason, there's something that believes that. Because I think I was there at one point too. If we're being honest, I think we all were.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. Were you gonna say something on that one?
No, I
Like
you hit
that's
on the nail.
good stuff. One of the ones that I think of, I have two that I think of right away, specifically when it comes to, just kind of ties into what you were saying. Why can't we just, like, I don't know what you believe. You can believe something else. You can believe something completely different, but we can all come to the same table and just be like, I love you for who you are type of stuff. And that does not exist at all.
I think especially because a lot of unchurched, I know it sounds weird to like put them in a category, but like people who don't go to church normally,
Right.
they have the same problems that people who do go to church have.
And people that don't go to church,
They just
don't realize that.
Yeah, and they kind of like,
Or they might.
This might be a little crass and rude. They just hide it better.
That's real though. No, that's
Yeah,
right
that's
on.
true.
Church people have just been in the game so long, especially people that have been in church for a long time. They've just been in the game so long that they know how to hide
put
it a lot
front,
better.
yeah.
Exactly. Because everyone has the same crap. I mean, that's kind of, I don't know if that's a bad word to say, but whatever. I said it. Everyone has the same garbage that they deal with.
Yeah.
Like, you struggle with things, I struggle with things, we all struggle with certain things. And for us, I don't think we try to hide it so much. Like, we make those things our platforms. Like, we stand on top of that, and we don't let it, like, define who we are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, we are very transparent with, I struggle with this.
But normal church people.
Right. Right. Traditional people will be, no, I'm chilling.
What? I don't have
happy.
those
What do you
issues.
mean? I don't struggle with any of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really big point that can go in really any direction
Right.
of that. Did you have something?
I thought you said you had two.
I forgot it in the back of my mind after I started talking.
Sorry.
That's fine. No, you're good.
Mine's kind of just the same thing that you kind of all, based on your question or your answers. I was thinking the same thing. It's just like loving everyone. Like, nobody's above anyone else. Everyone struggles with the same thing. And I think that's just the big thing that causes division of, well, they're going through that. So it's almost like people can't even be real to say, hey, I'm struggling with this, like, help me out. Instead, they're like, oh, did you hear it?
And
You
they'll
know?
sometimes like alienate
Yeah.
them. Like, oh, they're
Yeah,
going through
they're
that
going
issue.
through
Oh,
that.
that
so,
thing.
Yeah.
Kind of hitting on what you said, and when you were talking, it made me think. It's weird, like if you really like look deeper to it, like there's like a weird transition, and that's not for every Christian, but somewhere along the way on your journey, you go from I need Jesus and I need mercy and I need this to somewhere it's like, well, now it's kind of me and Jesus to now it's like, well, no, I got this. Like there's like this somewhere there's a separation where it's
Right.
like I need grace and I'm no better than anyone else to. I've been in the game long enough, so it's kind of like
It's a progression.
It's a progression. Like I got
Yeah.
better, so now you're still at phase 1,
Right.
and I'm at phase like whatever.
Oh, yeah,
but
that
in
makes
Jesus' eyes, like it's all kind of like we're
Yeah.
just
It's literally like I spoke about this a few weeks ago, where it's a progression of you start out in one position, like you start out in that one phase where you need him and you need his grace, and then there's for whatever reason there comes a progression where you get comfortable and then you become calloused, and you start taking things for granted that you were praying for a few years ago.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's just that progression of not only life, but it's just a progression of just being comfortable. But yeah, I like that. That's cool. Anybody else on that one?
All I can think.
It's all
right now.
good. Going back to the verse, it tells us that the Jews were concerned about their widows being overlooked when it came to food. And instead of just meeting the immediate need, the disciples, they chose the much harder route of trying to bring everyone back together. I think that's always the harder thing to do, but that's what they did. And I feel like we have this same choice in our everyday interactions. We can try to make people feel better, or we can address the real problem that's kind of lying underneath. So I can either just, like a baby almost, kind of reminds me of, like you can just give
Like
it
just
give it
pacify
what
you.
it wants to stop crying,
Yeah.
or you can identify what's really going on and attack the real issue. That literally reminds me of a baby
Yeah.
for whatever reason. Whether that's, it can literally apply to a lot of things in life, whether it's dealing with racial reconciliation or the issue of exclusion or gossip. We can choose the option that uplifts those that we're tempted to ignore or exclude. So the question I want to ask now is what people are ignored or excluded in our context, whether it's in faith, whether it's in the church, whether it's in schools or your job. What people are ignored or excluded?
one I think, and I'm talking just solely in the context of church.
Yeah.
And this is something I've thought about this before, and actually I think someone asked me this, like they said this in a sermon, and that made me like start like just thinking.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think the people, and it's weird to think, that can be excluded in church context solely is the leadership people, but I think sometimes we are excluded by ourselves. This is a issue I had a few months ago where I realized like you almost can put yourself on the back burner to help others, which is a totally awesome thing to want to help others.
Yeah.
But I had this moment with God like 3 months ago. I remember I was on my way to Reilly for something, and I was just like listen to worship music or something like that, and I remember like him saying so clearly, and I don't have a lot of big moments where God just like speaks, but that time it like hit me.
Like
And
you
he-
can't deny that it's
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
And he was like, you stop getting close to me. And I got like real upset. I was like, dude, I've been reading my Bible. I know I've learned so much in the past few years. And it's almost like I saw this timeline. And he was like, here's where you grew in ministry, which is awesome. Here's where you grew with me. He's like, somewhere along the way, and I know many people in ministry that struggle with this. He's like, you forgot that I still love you the way I love them. And you started helping so many more people that you forgot about us.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes like
Wow.
I can exclude
Yeah.
myself because I'm trying to help others, but it's still excluding yourself, whether it's for good or bad. Like, and God still wants to have a relationship with me.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I
That's good.
think, I mean, it's. I get what you're saying, and it's a bad thing to like kind of neglect the relationship you have between you and God, but it's almost like you're doing it for a better reason. You're like, okay, I'm good. I'm. It's hard to say.
It's good.
Like-
You're good. Go ahead.
I'm at a level where I know that like I'm not going to hell, something like that.
Yeah.
Versus somebody who's like they possibly
they're on the fence.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like they I think matter more than in the position that I am.
Almost
you know?
like
Yeah.
to the point where like you see people that
kind of like you're on like a sinking ship and like somebody's about to go into the water and you're like, well, I'm kind of farther.
I'm good right
I'm
now, so let me-
let me help you
stick
out.
a hand out.
and you do
Yeah.
whatever you can where all your energy is just focused on
Yeah.
And then
Right.
eventually, I
trying to
guess,
get people.
you
Eventually, you
realize
start
that you're getting
drowning.
closer to the water.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's real though. That's
That's
that's a
good.
really good
That's
point.
good.
I mean, yeah, I'm glad God got you on that one.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
checked you.
Yeah, he did.
He's like, you still need me too.
It's like, dang, you're right. I was like, you're right.
You're sinking a little bit.
Yeah.
That's a
And you're,
good
like,
point.
trying to help these people.
Yeah, as you're drowning and dying.
Oh man, that's good. That's a really good one.
I think that's even what you were saying. Like, it brings me back to even us in worship.
Yeah.
Because and they kind of know this too. Ever since the concert we went to, Outcry, it was like life changing for me. And basically from that day, it was just like night and day for my worship leading, just because it turned into like, when I did worship leading before, it was something that I had to do, because I love to do it and everything, but it was when they explained it, it was like, when you lead in worship, you're supposed to lead God's people obviously into worship, but it's also about you showing, that worship that you have between you and God. And if you don't do that, then it's pretty much like a show, so it's almost like you get comfortable in showing like, oh, this is what you have to do because you want to reach those people or you want to reach that person. But it's like, okay, but are you still worshiping God at the same time instead of just showing what you're supposed to be doing? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you remember the example that he used as like the tour bus and all that exactly? Specifically, do you remember that? Not really. Never mind. We'll not go there.
One more thing on that, but it's true.
Yeah.
It is true. And one thing I found I do, and it kind of goes back to the whole thing of like, we get better at hiding it. Like, it's easy for me not to progress my personal relationship with God, but help you because I still feel like I'm doing good.
Right.
But when I don't progress my personal, I don't have to get uncomfortable anymore because I'm just comfortable speaking. And when you start getting closer to God, it tends to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So it's easy for me just to help you because I have my issues, but I'm good enough. Like, I know I'm not going to hell.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can just stay here.
Yeah.
But it's equally as bad. Like, you're still not progressing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just that's the nature of being comfortable.
Right.
Yeah. You become like callous. That's real. What people are ignored or excluded. What about in schools? What people, like, on a different level here? So we're not talking about church. Like, for that high school student or that college student that might be struggling with a little bit maybe of being ignored or excluded, how can they kind of be helped and comforted in that time? Like, what if I was bullied at one point? I don't know if you were bullied at one point. I remember I wanted to fight this kid that was trying to pick on you. What would you say to that person that maybe is feeling like pushed to the side at this point, or pushed to the side, maybe not looked at, maybe they're not in the popular crowd or whatever is supposed to be cool or considered cool? What would you tell them if they're getting that shoulder, I guess, right now?
I guess for me, it would depend, like, what's the issue, like the actual issue. One thing I think of, because, like, I was bullied when I was younger, and the thing that helped me, completely non-spiritual, but it did help, was martial arts. Like, I'm real big on martial arts, but it wasn't because, like, I learned how to fight, but it was, like, it's the confidence, and I think a lot of times, people who are bullied, and some people you're just bullied because other people are just rude, and they have issues.
Yeah.
So it's, like, it gives you confidence, and I think the one key to help stopping bullying, which is weird, and I heard someone say this, and it really threw me off, but it made sense, was you got to help the bully. Because the bully, a lot of times, if they're bullying someone, you can trace back, they're having an issue at home. Yeah. Or they're feeling less than, so they make you feel less than to feel better. So, like, if we start, again, from the root, if you fix a surface issue, the issue's going to come back. But if you tear up the root, it's going to eliminate all these issues.
Yeah. Right. I mean, we said that last week. I mean, hurting people hurt people. We've heard that all our lives. Where, usually when a bully's being a bully, it's because they are lacking in a certain area that they don't feel like they're getting. Whether it's they're insecure about something, whether there's trouble at home or anything like that. So if you're being bullied, if you feel like you're just being kind of cast to the side, understand that if it's a certain person or whatever it is, that they're hurting too. That's why they're either lashing out or doing whatever it is that they're hurting for whatever reason it might be. Maybe what if you flipped the script and what if you answered or responded with like a loving way? I don't know if that helps at all, but what if you responded a little bit differently? What if you could change the whole trajectory of kind of the way they were going? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that kind of led to my next question. How can we love those people well, not just by helping them, but by fully including them?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even in the context of we all have friend groups at church or wherever, at your job or whatever. And how can we help people by including them in our group, in our conversation, and that kind of thing that eliminates exclusion and or people being ignored. I think that's really hard. I know that's a hard question to answer, but
That's not a question for me. I'm the one to just keep to myself.
Background.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Just that, like, fade into the background type of thing. So
that's real though. That's real for some people too. I mean, they can relate to exactly that. And I think that can go a long way. Like, I wouldn't try to force you to be in my group. You know what I mean?
Right.
If I was to approach you, that'd
I
be
think
hard.
Maybe just be open to. I'm looking at it from the other perspective, not the
That's what we
person
need.
helping.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'd just be open to people reaching out to me and trying to make that connection or any connection. Because I know for me, a lot of the time, I'll kind of just like almost shut down and like not let anybody get close or, you know. So
No,
I think
yeah.
just having like an open,
Like an open door.
yeah. that
Like, not
anybody-
necessarily, hey, come hang out with us, but just knowing that, hey, we're here for you,
Yeah.
type
Yeah.
of stuff. That's a really cool perspective to.
And I think that's even with any person nowadays, because everyone's so focused on their phones that they don't have social interaction with anyone anymore. So it's so hard for people to open up and to say, hey, like, I'm here for you. Like, hey, you want to hang out or something. And then when people get invited or something, it's like people automatically have a wall. Like, why?
Yeah.
You know, so because of social media or because of, you know,
A lot of those social skills are
yeah,
like
Gone.
gone. Yeah.
Just weren't
gone
taught.
or like over. I don't even know how to say it, but just I guess gone is the best. Underdeveloped.
Like they weren't
Yeah.
developed properly.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
even for us, we were at the beginning of that whole phase, and I feel that. I mean, we got hooked into social media so fast, where I feel like that's a lot of where our problems come from in this
Yeah.
generation.
Right. So the other thing I was thinking too, just going back on just loving people or helping people, I think it's just like how we said in the beginning, it's just loving on anyone. Because like even something that we talked about in our life group, it was like one of the things came up, it was like, would you give money to a homeless person or something like that? Some people said yes, other people said no, because everyone has their different opinions.
I don't have no money.
Everyone has their
poor.
different opinions on, you know, homeless or anything like that. So, but it's just like, what's
Can I Venmo you? Or
You have Cash App,
Cash
sir?
App?
Do you have Cash App? Do you take by text? Do you take Facebook money?
That's real though. Everyone has different reasons for
Yeah,
that.
and but it's like, but I even said in the life group, I was like, but why would it be different if it was someone who was homeless versus someone that you knew?
Yeah.
You know,
That's a crazy point though. Like, genuinely, if you think about it, like, what's the difference?
just because the
you have
whole
like a rapport with somebody. Like if somebody like
Sometimes
like
I don't.
if I came up and called you one of the names I call you, you'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's because we have that kind
Right.
of relationship. If I said that to somebody else, I'd probably get punched in the face.
No, I'm saying like, we all have those Facebook friends that we have them as Facebook friends, but we don't know why. Like,
Yeah.
I met you one time, and they ask you for money.
Yeah. I'm
I
like,
mean, I've given to people like that before.
I haven't even met you. You're just like one of my friends' friends.
Like, you knew them in school 10 years ago. That's
Yeah.
what I have a lot of coming from when we moved to moving to a different high school.
Right.
Mhm.
I've had people reach out to me for money, and I give it to them, but I don't know you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what's the difference between a homeless guy asking me for money versus somebody I met a few times 10 years ago?
I probably wouldn't give either.
But it's different for everybody.
Well,
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I think it could be like a homeless, like it's the stigma that people think of, like, oh well, they're not hungry, they just want it for drugs, or
Right.
And you know, there are some people who that's just the reality of it, and some people just are trying to trick, but
and
then
that was my point.
Yeah.
I'm like, but how do you know that this friend or
yeah,
you know isn't doing that
I'm
for
skeptical
drugs
of
and money
both.
too? You know,
yeah, that's where
Skeptical of both. Skeptical.
No, I don't believe you.
skeptical.
What is the word?
skeptical.
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 What did I say?
I don't know. I kept
So-
hearing skeptical though in my head.
Skeptical.
Yeah. So that was kind of like my perspective, but it's like, why can't we just love on everyone?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they are homeless or they're not homeless.
I love you, but not with my money.
Right.
Yeah,
You need
Not
any
with my non-existent
clothes or-
money.
Yeah, that, huh?
Yeah.
I guess that kind of leads or segues it kind of perfectly into the next portion here. And in our own lives, think about it. Just kind of go with me for a second. Take a look at your friendships that you have. And instead of just asking someone who's excluded or being ignored to hang out with us or join our group, like we kind of just mentioned, could we ask ourselves if our group is even healthy at all? Think of your friendship group.
And I think we kind of established, was it like in one of the last podcasts, that even having like kind of clique-ish groups are not the greatest.
They're not healthy, right?
Yeah.
So keep following me here. Instead of so think about your friendship group. Think of, is it really healthy? Is what we have going on, is it healthy? If we don't really have a lot of friends, so I'm trying to think a little bit differently. Instead of just adding in new people that you maybe feel bad for, or you feel like are being ignored or excluded, what if your whole system of adding friends to your group needs to be rethought? Do we need to branch out of our comfort zone? Do we need to befriend people that have different backgrounds?
I think that seems harder too, if you're saying like, hey, lone person, come join all these group of strangers.
I used to do that.
It's hard for them, rather than, I would think, maybe like leave your group behind for a little bit and just like maybe hang out one-on-one. So it's like trying to get to know a person. Like,
here's a little story time of when we moved to different high schools. I don't really want to say names. I don't want to make anybody feel bad. But when we moved to a new high school, when we moved cities, I remember I used to have a lot of friends in the old school, and then I moved to this new school where I literally had no friends. I don't know if I've told you guys this story yet. Maybe you.
did you pay somebody?
No, I didn't buy friends or followers.
I listened to that one.
Yeah, I didn't buy followers at this point, but I remember going to the school. My first and second day of school, I didn't have any friends. Like literally, I'm at lunchtime. I didn't think anything else because I didn't know what to do. I went to a classroom and literally sat there by myself and had my sandwich and like legit cried in that class. Have I ever told you this?
I don't know.
Maybe. But
That's pretty not to cry. That's weird. You're weird.
how's that weird?
You're weird.
You're excluding me right now. But what I ended up doing, what kind of relates to what we're talking about here, is I didn't want to feel that feeling ever again. And I didn't want other people to feel that feeling. Like, it gave me a passion to not let anyone else feel the way I was feeling at that moment.
So you paid for your friend?
No, I didn't pay for any friends. I ended up inviting people that I knew were new to the school or were by themselves to hang out with us. And we started this group where we were just all friends of people that were not only excluded or ignored, but new to the school. Whatever it is, I invited them to hang out with us because I hated that feeling so much that I didn't want anyone else to feel that same way that I did.
You're an initiator, though.
I am.
Yeah,
I've always had that
You're the
problem.
leader. Let's all loners
Let's all
get together.
group together. But that kind of reminded me of that. And just to finish the kind of the foundation of this next part of the conversation, the early church grew larger because they invited all kinds of people. Even those that were pushed aside, ignored, or abused. Maybe we need to ask ourselves, who are those people in our context? Who are the people being ignored? Who are the people being abused? And the question I want to ask us to kind of finish out the conversation is, do we have friendships that need to be reevaluated after learning what we have today? That's a really big question too. Yeah. Like, it's not saying the friends that you have, like, I can't be friends with them anymore, but I don't know. It can kind of go in a lot of different, and I want to hear you guys' perspectives as what you guys feel about that question.
It gets weird because I have personal experience with this one.
Yeah.
Where I have
tell.
friends.
Do tell.
I'm not going to say names because it's going to get real awkward.
No, we'll bleep it out. We're
Yeah,
good.
for sure. Their name is but I have friends who current friends, past friends who like were super close to me, who I've had to like make a decision to not hang out with as much because of my personal growth. And
Yeah.
because like knowing like I'm heading a certain direction in my life that I believe is foundational and you're not, and I'm not going to force you. So like it's for my personal growth, I can't be that in this area.
Right.
Like I have friends who I like love and I miss, and I'll see them here and there, and it's awesome to hang out like here and there. But like when I get around them, like it's just like it's weird. Like certain people, like some people you're stronger on, and some people like they just pull you back, and it's not because they're bad or anything. It's just that connection you have, and you just can't like. I go like from churchy to not in like seconds because like it's just those connections.
Yeah.
Like, and that's where it gets hard because it's like I think that a lot when I see those people like loving people, being there for people, but it's like at what point do you cross the line of like, oh yeah, I need to reach a hand out, but then like I'm detrimenting myself and therefore them because I'm like not being wise about my friendships.
Yeah.
So that's where I see
That's
that.
really
like,
hard. It's because I think that's something that we've kind of talked about too. It's like, who are you surrounding yourself with? One of the I guess quotes that Spanish people will say, Mexicans would say. Tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are.
Can you say it in Spanish? It's gonna sound really nice.
Dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres.
I know I married you for a reason.
And it's, it's that quote. Tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are.
Our pastor says one all the time. If you want to fly with eagles, stop hanging out with turkeys or something like that. Have you ever heard that?
No, I haven't heard. I've heard that one. My mom and dad would tell me that all the time.
Yeah. But I think it's true because it's like you surround yourself with people that are going the same direction. And it's so hard because then when you've made the connections that you have in the past with certain people, it's not that you want to exclude them. It's just the fact that they're not going the same way that you are. So it's so hard. But I think if it's also having that balance of not excluding them or not saying that you're going to go backwards.
Yeah.
But to still have, that helping hand to reach out and say, hey, been thinking about you. Let's hang out or whatever. But we do have those friendships where it's like some of them are just, you don't talk for a while and then you just talk again and then you pick up where you left off and it's like you guys never stop talking. But then there's other ones where it's just like, hey, so how you doing? And
I think there's levels to it, and it makes me think like, are we the type of people that, because we pretty much have the same friends and we think the same way at this point, do we exclude or ignore certain people?
I was literally,
Be real, like,
I
I'm
was
serious.
literally thinking of that. But I think what we've always done is we don't even like to make people feel like third wheels. Like when we even go out or when people want to hang out. Because we have a friend in Washington. Shout out to Jakari if you're listening. Jakari,
Miss you, man.
Miss you, Jakari.
I was supposed to not name names.
We'll quack him out.
He's our friend. So, but he's always been one that's kind of been really independent. He doesn't know a lot of people when he moved to Washington. And when we would always hang out, he would even tell us, like, you guys don't make me feel like a third wheel. Like I feel like we always keep our relationship really open to not where it's like, awkward.
PDA all over the place.
Yeah.
We hated that stuff.
So I don't know. But then at the same time, I'm going to be real. When certain people start to get in a certain way, I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, I don't really want to see them or talk to them.
Josh looks confused. Can you clarify?
What do you mean?
Like,
You gotta be real. This is what this is about.
We'll bleep out names as chill.
I'm confused.
Well, yeah, we'll
They're
not
probably confused
say no
too.
names.
okay, well, there's someone that we both know.
That's going way too far already.
Oh, stop. That has kind of been causing trouble within the group. Not group, but like in our friendships, I guess. So we're kind of like, oh, do we invite them? Do we not? Because it's, because it's been kind of like awkward lately and yeah.
I really don't know who you're talking about, but I'm just going to go with you.
Can you give us a specific time?
No specific times.
No.
But
We're gonna put a picture of them right here.
But that's what the question's asking though. Like, do you exclude or do you ignore certain people? Like, think about the way you consider someone a friend or how you make friends or make them a part of your group. Are you really as open as you say you are?
Well, I know I'm not. I know I'm not.
Right.
I'm not.
Like, that's real,
Yeah.
right?
There's people like I'll purposely exclude for like whatever reason. Like if I see like I'll see you and I'll like walk the other way, or I'll be it's the worst at work.
Right.
Oh man.
They'll come in and I'm like have to help you, and it's nothing against you. It's just like my personal. It's like my issue, not even you. Like they don't even know there's an issue. It's like me, and I know it's me because I'm like I'm self-aware enough to know, and I'm like I'll deal with this later, and I just walk away.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like we do that.
That's
It's
real.
real.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
real.
for sure. You gonna say something?
I think I'm the opposite. Like I exclude everyone, and they have to claw their way into my life.
We do. It took me 10 years to do it. Just kidding. But I think that's a real question that I don't think a lot of people are willing to answer. Well, they might be. I mean, but we like to be as hot. We say that a lot. Honest, open, and transparent. We like to be as genuine as possible. To where I'm gonna be honest, we might exclude some people. We might ignore certain people. But I think the reason being.
But what's the motive behind excluding?
That's what I was gonna
some
say right
people?
now.
That-
My
yeah.
motive, I was just gonna say that.
Go ahead.
Is because I get annoyed.
Well,
Because
I'm
if-
even thinking
if
of
they
it.
said something or like
Oh, okay. Those are like very basic like reasons. I was thinking more like kind of what you said, where they're kind of not going in the same direction you are.
That was one of my points where I'm headed in one direction. You're over here still trying to just fool around and be a joker, and I'm not
So
doing that
It
no
would
more.
make sense to kind of not kind of exclude them, but kind of
We're just going
like
in different
phase them
directions.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That sounds bad.
I think my other reason where you kind of hit on would be maybe you kind of did me dirty
Yeah.
at some point in my life. Maybe you gave me a reason why I kind of want to ignore you
yeah.
because I don't need that drama in my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of different reasons, and we might just be hitting the surface level of it. But I don't know. Comment down below. What are some issues why you would want to
Exclude.
not exclude? Because that sounds so bad,
Yeah.
but it's real.
Move
It's
on.
true.
I mean, why would you want to rethink your friendship process or making people like in part of your group and that kind of thing? That's the last question I had. Did you guys have any other thoughts on?
One thing I will
Yeah,
add
go
on
ahead.
that, and this is a real thing I talked to a lot of people about, like, so I'm getting married soon.
Yeah.
So, like, with that, like, which I'm super excited about. That's
Hey,
cool.
let's just hand clap. Yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
Golf club.
Golf clap.
Yeah, thank you. But like that's something I've talked to my fiance about and other people. Like I've like really started rethinking my friends, like knowing like now that me and her are like we're getting married, like I'm looking for more friends who are married
Right.
and more in that sphere and more like I'm thinking like long term, like
Have you had like some friends say that you're kind of like leaving them behind for her more? Kind of
no,
like
not with her. I've had friends say that before,
oh okay.
and I'm like whatever.
Right.
Excluded.
Not
Ignore
yeah. Goodbye. Block. No, not. I have a really small circle, like maybe like 5-6 friends, like really like small,
I feel
and
like
they're
it's
all
pretty big.
But like my thing is when I knew I was gonna marry her, I had to make sure they were cool with her because if they weren't, it wasn't she had to go. As something's gonna happen, bro. I'm gonna be
Right.
for her. So,
That's
Yeah.
true.
but like a lot of my friends now, I'm thinking like, okay, who long term when we have kids, who's gonna be a good like family member to them? You know, who's gonna like? I'm thinking like that. Like, and,
Right.
like I'm seeing like some friends I have who I'm cool with. Like I know, okay, you're not going there, which is fine, but I'm going here, so like I'm starting like to almost rethink, which. I feel bad about it, but then part of me is like, but this is like, it's good. It's for a good cause. So like, it's like that balance of like, am I just piecing out on someone because I don't want to make effort?
But I think if someone's willing to let your friendship go because you're choosing your future,
family.
yeah, your family, and if they're not willing to accept that, I think that's
Like, were they a good friend in the
you,
first
you weren't a good friend to me
Yeah.
anyway. You know what I
Right?
mean? And I that kind of reminds me of like high school and friends that you have in high school. Like you have hundreds of friends in high school, right? And
I
then
mean, maybe you did.
I didn't have hundreds of friends,
Man,
but
I
you have a
don't know,
ton of
you're
friends. Like you have a lot of
Bob.
friends. No, I'm not one of those. I bought the followers. Dang it.
I know you bought your friend.
But I mean, after high school, everyone thinks you're gonna stay friends forever.
Right.
Like I legit said, I'm like, oh no, our homies we're different. We're not gonna break apart. But literally 6 months later, I didn't talk to 80% of them, 90% of them. And it goes a little bit off topic, but understand that if you're in high school, you're in maybe the beginning of college, things are gonna change a little bit. I know you might say you're girls or you're boys. Nah, we're different. Where there's some people that are that way, but you're literally gonna have 5-6 close friends, or in my case, 1 or 2 close friends that you stick with for a long
Yeah.
time.
And
Have
usually,
you had any friends that from high school that like try to reconnect with you?
I
you
have
kinda
one.
Just like avoid them.
No, I have
No?
one.
Oh, that you have reconnected with.
that we've been connected since the end of high school. It's only been 6 or 7 years for me, but I had a group that we were boys, and then it just fell apart.
a lot of the stuff like because like my closest friends, they went to school with me, and like we've said openly, like the only reason why we're friends and I'm not friends with them is because we're just into the same stuff. We go to the same church, we both like working out,
Yeah.
we work at the same place.
There
If we
you
didn't,
go.
like
Right.
I probably wouldn't be your friend.
Yeah.
Like it's like the same.
Yeah.
It's like we have common things we do together that
Right.
keeps us connected.
Yeah, that's real too.
Mm.
Anybody else on that one?
Just like what he said right now, it's funny because we've even not lost, but we've kind of, I guess, lost friendships over because of church, because we didn't go to the same church anymore, and it was kind of like that was our common thing.
Yeah.
So it was just like,
And it's not that we don't love these people still or
Right.
these friends. It's just like that was their only common
That was your connection.
connection
Yeah.
that we had. And now that we don't have that, we don't have anything to talk about. We don't
Yeah.
Like, we don't see each other.
we don't get to see each
Yeah.
other. We'll see you once every few months, and that sucks. But I think that's just a part of life
That's just
too.
how it is. It's how we
Yeah,
roll.
life's changed.
But it's good though. Like, I think if I was still connected with the people I were then, and they're awesome people, and some of them are doing great things. Like, I would have never progressed because I would still be that person. So
Right.
like, there's something good about progressing and getting better and changing. So, yeah,
yeah.
Anybody else on that one? On this
that was a
this
good.
topic? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Oh, good, Josh.
We're good.
Everyone loves you.
For
I
real,
know.
man.
Thanks.
All the comments that I've seen and people that have told me, Josh is the best.
He
He's-
never bought friends.
he didn't buy friends. I'm gonna hear that forever, huh? It's all good.
Well, it makes sense why people love me because I'm amazing.
That's true. He's a little amazing.
Yet you talk to no one.
Just
But
that.
how good is he?
I
That's
have
the key.
fans.
That's the
They
key.
want to talk to me. I don't want to talk to them.
That does make them fans, I think, by definition.
But yeah, this episode was good. It focused on, obviously, the main point was we need to show that we can listen and learn from those who are most different from us. Like, even if you believe in something different, you can still love each other.
Yeah.
Pretty much. This what it literally. This whole series for me came down to loving someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seemed like this whole Fresh series. This is the last episode of Fresh, or I'm sorry, series. Insert. I don't know what to call it. Part 4 of Fresh. And I feel every episode that we've talked about so far, it just kind of reminded me or emphasized that you need to love everybody, no matter what.
No matter what.
And I wonder if that's going to be every single series, or maybe that's just something that's been on my heart lately. But yeah, I really enjoyed this series. Anybody have any thoughts on this series? I know, Christian, you probably haven't listened to all of them just yet. But what about you guys? V, Josh? Thank you so
Nope.
much for that. That's great.
I have valuable input.
Share, please.
That's it.
Thank you so much for that. But we're going to wrap this episode up, guys. If you're not subscribed, if you're listening on YouTube, subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, I don't know what do you do on Spotify? Just favorite it?
Yeah, you follow it. You follow it.
Follow it.
Follow it.
On iTunes, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, what you doing, bruv? And of course, get your merch. Get your merch, oasischurchca.org/shop. Just pick up the best merch in the game. You know what it is. But until next time, we're going to be starting a new series. Next week, I have another friend coming on with us. We're starting a series called GOAT. Greatest of all
Oh,
The
time.
goat.
That's what's
So
up.
I'm super excited. I've been kind of reviewing some of what we're going to be covering. And hopefully we can get Christian back on.
For sure.
If he enjoyed his time here, which I hope he did.
I did.
It was
pretty dope.
awesome having you. Different perspectives. That's literally what it's all about. We each have a different perspective, and bringing some friends on that have other perspectives is always awesome to conversate. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
until next time, guys, we'll catch you in the next episode.
Bye.
Peace.
Yeah.
Woo!